Okay, so in this lecture we will talk about gross domestic product and economic growth. And what you will learn is first, why do we need a national accounting system? So the national accounting system is essentially about how do we calculate gross domestic product or economic activity. And so why do we need that? And one of the reasons is that we want to smooth out business cycles. So what seems to be like a natural law is that economies, they are subject to ups and downs, and that is something that government would like to prevent because people prefer a steady income stream. And we will just illustrate that using a simple example. Then we will start going into the nuts and bolts of calculating GDP. And the basic idea is embedded in the modern economy as a circular flow model, which is something we have already talked about earlier, at least a little bit. Then we introduced the basic idea of national accounting. And when it comes to calculating GDP, there are three ways of doing it. There's the final goods approach, or it's also known as the expenditure approach. Then there's the income approach and the value added approach. They all lead to the same result. Then we will talk about some criticisms of GDP, because GDP does not measure everything, but nevertheless we will also show that GDP is a pretty good proxy for many indicators of people's standards of living. Then again, we'll become a little bit more technical and talk about the difference between nominal and real GDP. And after that, we will move to the calculation of inflation and talk about inflation and the accuracy of GDP. Then we will introduce two measures of GDP. One is the GDP deflator. The other one is the consumer price index. Then we will talk about inflation and who wins and who loses, followed by causes of inflation. And then we will introduce a very important equation in economics, which is the equation of exchange, or also known as the Cambridge equation. Then we will work a little bit with the Cambridge equation to see how inflation is being formed. Then we will briefly talk about the fact that inflation is always a monetary phenomenon. Last but not least, we still introduce a little bit of vocabulary associated with inflation. And that is inflation, but there's also disinflation and deflation. And last but not least, we talk about long run versus short run economic growth. So it looks like a lot, but I'm very sure that the videos, they are much shorter than previously, because overall the concepts at this stage are clearly less comprehensive than what we did, for example, in micro. Okay, so in the next video, let's start with why we need a national accounting system.